You didn't think you could get rid of me that easily, did you? Welcome back, everyone, to another stellar episode of Weirdflix, the show where we give the content everyone's clamoring for. Garbage reviews of garbagier movies. Before we begin today, I feel as though I owe the 5 of you that care about this channel an apology. Unforeseen events had caused my basement to flood, which left me physically unable to film Weirdflix episodes. Because of this, I had to leave you in the hands of Alex, who made 3 anime review episodes and then completely forgot about the channel for 9 weeks. And for that, I apologize. However, I am not innocent in this matter, and as such I have provided a suitable penance for myself as a way to redeem myself in the eyes of you, the viewer. Based on my advanced knowledge of mathematics, I've been away for about 11 weeks, and as such, you, the viewer, are owed 11 reviews. So today, to make up for lost time, I will be reviewing 11 movies back to back. Now unfortunately, I can't do an in-depth review of all these movies, because Alex might shoot me if I try to make her edit a video that would end up being an hour and a half long. However, though these reviews may be brief, they will not lack in quality. Well, no more than usual anyways. Enough waiting around, let's get on to Weirdflix's first multi-pack.
Weirdflix.
First up is a movie that I did not enjoy in the slightest, The Demons Among Us. The only reason I watched this movie is because one of our viewers requested I review something with the phrase Among Us in it because of the popular video game. You know who you are. Anyway, this movie sucked. I did not enjoy it in the slightest. The plot revolved around a family that was demons, or they summoned demons, or they turned into zombies, and then other people turned into zombies, and frankly, I have no idea what was going on for about 80% of the movie. That's because this film suffered from a double whammy of the plot being basically incomprehensible, and the movie being too dark, so even if I could understand the plot, I physically was unable to see what was going on. This is a bad combo for all you amateur filmmakers out there. You can either have your plot make no sense, or you can have your movie be pitch black. You can't have both, so pick one. I would recommend that nobody try to find this movie because it's basically 80 minutes of meandering around a town watching people get turned into zombies. Nothing interesting happens, the plot doesn't make any sense. There's not much else I can say about it before I start falling asleep because of how boring it was. This is an E-tier movie. In contrast to the last movie, a film I actually enjoyed watching was Danger, Diabolic. This is I'm gonna say Italian superhero comic book film based off of a comic book called Danger, Diabolic. He's kind of like a Robin Hood type character, except instead of stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, he steals $10 million in rare emerald diamond necklaces to give to his hot blonde girlfriend. Man after my own heart. This movie is weird in all the right ways. From the fact that our hero, Diabolic, brought down the entire British government by blowing up all their banks and tax collection buildings, to the fact that he ends the movie frozen in place by molten gold and just laughs about it. The Danger, Diabolic is incredibly wacky, and it's exactly what a bad movie should be. Cheesy, yet there's some care and heart put into it. Although it's not perfect, it's leagues above many other movies I've seen. I give this one an A rating. There's a Mystery Science Theater version of this movie floating around online, which is the superior way to watch any movie. But if you can't find that or don't want to, simply find any version of this movie, because it is well worth the effort. Definitely go watch it. There's something to be said for classical movies. Not that I've reviewed any on this channel, but I like to think I've made some classic reviews. One of the ones that I consider a classic is my review of Vampire Suck, a link somewhere up here. In honor of that, I watched another Twilight parody called Breaking Wind, which made me sad on an almost indescribable level because it means that more than one person wanted to make a Twilight parody. We are truly doomed as a species. This one was interesting, to say the least. It's far more risque than I would have expected for a Twilight parody. Risque means indecent and suggestive, for those who don't know. There was some clever humor in it, which surprised me, but it was usually followed up by fart humor, which took away from it. I don't really know how to feel about this movie because, while it was entertaining to see a vertically challenged Edward impersonator fight the real one and a fat Jacob, as well as Edward getting intimate with Bella's grandmother, I still had to watch those scenes, and they all made me indescribably uncomfortable. I will likely carry the shame of having watched this movie with me for the rest of my days. They also make fun of real-life actual Twilight fans at the end of this movie by taking clips off of YouTube, I guess, which felt illegal to me. I don't think they should have done that. It's mean-spirited and rude almost. foremost. I would say to watch this movie just for the sheer amount of shock value it can provide. For some reason, this movie expects you to be familiar with Twilight, which might confuse some of you. At the end of the day, who really cares? I had to watch Danny Trejo shit himself while talking about Transformers. My life is a mess. I give this film a B. If you're even morbidly curious, I'd go find a copy. I believe it's free on Tubi. You'll remember Tubi as I've talked about it before because it seems like 80% of these garbage movies are on there. This video is not sponsored by Tubi, but if anyone can make us get sponsored, let us know. It may be obvious from everything about me, but I'm not a sports guy. I've never dunked a touchdown, nor gotten a birdie during a hat trick, and I always seem to end every game love over par. That being said, I loved a sports movie that I watched recently, Night of the Dribbler. Now I hear you saying, Chris, how can you like a movie that's about sports when you've infuriated several of your audience members by getting everything wrong about sports in the last couple sentences? Well, it's because this movie is absolutely hilarious. It looks like an after-school special, but has the comedic absurdity of something like Airplane. The plot revolves around trying to find out who's killing off members of a school basketball team, and everything about that plot, as well as the movie, makes absolutely no sense. People ask the coach if he can have a word, and he gives them one. The coach gives a kid with no arms a 1,000-piece puzzle as a get well gift. The main character uses self-hypnosis to become good at sports. This movie is ridiculous and ridiculously funny. Find this movie at all costs. This movie, I give it a W, and I give it my personal seal of approval. It's an absolute slam dunk. The next film I'll be talking about, The Starving Games, is brought to us by the people who made Vampire Sucks, and frankly, I prefer the Twilight parody. Now, this may just be personal taste, but I'm not a fan of young adult post-apocalyptic novels. I didn't like Divergent, I didn't like The Maze Runner, and I certainly didn't like The Hunger Games. Still, there was occasionally something funny that happened in this film, so it wasn't a total waste of my time. I find that the movie started out strong, but kind of petered out towards the end. Pun intended for the three of you Hunger Games fans out in the audience. The plot of this film is basically that of the first Hunger Games, but with juvenile humor thrown in. There really isn't that much to say about this one. A friend requested I watch it, and while I didn't hate it as much as other requests, The Demons Among Us, it certainly wasn't one of my favorites. I give this movie a D for drag. You should really only watch it if you like the Hunger Games and your sense of humor hasn't progressed past the 4th grade. This next one I'm about to talk about, it's a doozy. It's called Just Another Romantic Wrestling Comedy. To begin, it's free on YouTube. If anything I'm about to say to you interests you in the slightest, you should go watch. Number 1, Sal from Impractical Jokers is in this movie. I'm not going to tell you where, you can watch it and find out yourself, but I promise you, Sal is in it. Number 2, this movie has an interesting cast of characters. There's a gentleman who wears all pink, and the hero of the movie is named Marty Shalom Weinstein. The movie also feels like it ends about 30 minutes before it actually does, and there's about 2 fake out endings before the real one. It's insane. There are almost no words to describe everything wrong with this movie. The fact that it isn't more popular is a crime. I have to give this movie a W, even though I hate how much I enjoyed watching it. Go find this movie.
Hi, I know what everyone is thinking. Alex, where are you? I am currently in my creative space, my editing studio, instead of in my bedroom where I normally film my little editor moments for the channel. And that is because I am leaving for college tomorrow and I'm in the middle of not only just editing this video, but packing. So I'm a mess right now, my apologies, but I want to talk to you about Just Another Romantic Wrestling Comedy. Of the 11 movies that Chris is talking about today, this is the only one I've seen, and that's because we almost did it instead of Love on a Leash for our Valentine's Day special. Now, I nixed this movie because I did not like the stereotypes that they presented in the film. I thought that they were very negative and basically just very mean, and it was really a lot of punch down comedy that I don't particularly enjoy, and I didn't really want to be associated with the channel in like a one whole video format where we just focused on it. I didn't want to bring kind of those negative stereotypes and give it a platform. So I don't agree with the weird rating that Chris gives it, but if you guys really do want to watch it, it is free on YouTube. Just please keep that in mind about these stereotypes.
Your money, man, life goes on.
I'm hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it, let it take you away, and be hopeful, hopeful, and he'll make a way. I know it ain't easy.
The Imagine a world where intimacy is banned, where you have to get government approval to go near a woman, where bumping uglies requires a permit. I mean, I don't have to imagine that because I live in that world, but for some of you out there, this might be a very scary prospect. That's the world that Cinderella 2000 presents its audience. For some reason, someone thought the story of Cinderella could be improved if it took place in the future, if bumping uglies was banned, and if it was also a musical. There's a lot of things that are weird about this movie. For instance, there's a robot hanky-panky scene where a robot and a computer get it on, and we learn a little bit about electrical engineering. There's also the classic scene where Cinderella, her alien fairy godfather, and two rabbits learn about the birds and the bees. And who could forget the classic scene where Cinderella saves the world thanks to, what's the right euphemism for this? Word of mouth? Good enough. I'm not providing my editor with any of the footage for this episode, I'm just gonna let her piece it together through trailers for the movies. So I'm really excited to see what she can find for some of the descriptions I provided for this film. I have to give this movie a W, although it's just barely a W. There's so much nonsense in this movie, I can't understand how it ever got made. Find a copy if you can, just maybe don't watch it with other people. I'm going to spoil this next film for you, Corn Man, by telling you that this movie deserves a W more than anything else I've ever seen. A friend requested that I watch this one, and I said I was going to do a review on it, so here it is. Other people that have recommended movies for me, take note, because this is the kind of movie I want to watch. You know who you are. The Demons Among Us and Starving Games. Anyways, this is the only movie I've ever seen where the lead actor is straight up replaced after being killed halfway through the movie, and the movie full-on acknowledges it. The director literally orders the murder if memory serves. There's also a villain in this film called Cornsparagus, and if that doesn't make you want to watch it, we can't be friends. The plot is basically that it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the main character is a hero that talks to corn. He has a sidekick that's covered in butter, and another sidekick who looks like Gandhi and Pinocchio had a kid. There are no bad parts of this movie. It even ends with an awesome song about Corn Man. And the main villain, Dr. Ho, is one of the most relatable villains in media. I have no idea where you can find this movie. As far as I know, I might own the only copy in existence. But for anyone who's even slightly interested in what I've just described to you, you have to find this movie. It left me speechless, and that's saying something. This next movie, We're Going to Eat You, is pretty self-explanatory based on the title. An isolated group of people is turned into cannibals because the leadership of their village told them to. A private detective is hired to look into the rash of disappearances on Cannibal Island, and hilarity ensues. And I do mean hilarity because this film is kind of a comedy. It's also kind of a martial arts film, and I guess kind of a horror movie. This movie is mostly a series of kung fu fights loosely tied together with a Texas Chainsaw Massacre type story. There's a lot that went on in this film. Probably about, 3 or 4 different plots all rolled into one. I found that despite my initial shock of everything going on in the film, it grew on me. I would give this movie an A rating because although it is a foreign film, and we have a pretty high success rating with those on this channel, so far at least, it just can't compare with some of the heights of things I've described on this very list. Watching a private detective fight off the advances of a fat, ugly woman and then go toe-to-toe with some masked butchers is entertaining, but is it really weird? If you like odd martial arts films, this is a good fit for you. I'm not the smartest fella. I mean, I watch bad movies for fun, so clearly I'm not the sharpest crayon on the tree. However, I'm pretty sure that radiation doesn't turn women into bees. But according to Invasion of the Bee Girls, that's just another side effect of nuclear waste. Basically, men are turning up dead and no one knows why. It turns out that women are turning into bees through some weird ritual and machine in the basement of a science lab, and the men are dying during intimate acts. Based on what I know about bees, it's probably because their manhood is exploding. That's a true bee fact, by the way. There's a guy who looks like George Costanza that dies, and all the women wear sunglasses and consume vast amounts of sugar. There isn't much to this movie, but it's a funny idea that's executed pretty well. I'd give this movie a B. It's certainly not the best, but it's far from the worst. I liked it and might watch it again someday, and recommend you do as well. And at the end of the day, isn't that what this is all about? Recommending movies to people so they can get the same enjoyment out of them that I did? Well, that and giving me an excuse to buy more movies. Raise your hand if you remember our good friend David Dakota. Now, if you raised your hand, You listen to a guy that reviews bad movies for fun. Stop being a follower and start being a leader. Anyway, Mr. Dakota makes more than homoerotic films about killer bees. For instance, he makes rip-off Hallmark movies that are garbage and all take place in the same house. As I've mentioned before, A Talking Cat and My Stepbrother is a Vampire are good examples of these. The film I'm talking about today, Santa's Summer Home, is a film about people who get lost on their way to a hotel and end up in Santa's summer home that he owns and lives in during the summer, I think. And then Santa goes on to solve all of these people's personal problems. Not really a whole lot to talk about with this movie, other than the poor production value and utter strangeness of the plot. What about Santa suggests he would even own a summer home? Why am I questioning this? Does anyone even like these videos? Maybe I'm the one that needs a vacation.
And yes, this is me one last time here to just say that Chris forgot to give this video a rating. The rating for this movie is C for criminally bankrupt, because as all David Dakota films are, Santa's Summer Home is apparently criminally bankrupt. I wouldn't know, I've never seen it.
So there you have it. 11 movies for the 11 weeks I've missed. I'm sorry to have left you guys hanging for so long. I hope to be more consistent with uploads in the future, but honestly, it's not looking great. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, as well as all the other episodes we've ever put out on this channel. I'd like to especially thank anyone who continues to watch these videos every time we upload them. We wouldn't do this if it wasn't for our fans, so thank you for supporting us, from the bottom of my cold, dead heart. Stay tuned for more, because although Weirdflix is down, we're certainly not, well, not yet at least. Until we meet again, loyal viewers, remember, Weirdflix watches what no one else will.